Hello, friends. I'm here, coming to you from my office. I was in my car last time. I hide away to do these things because I have 4 kids and lots of animals, and so I have to hide when I do things like this. So, I give you a little bit of background last time on me, on why I do this, on what I do, and I said that I get the question all the time, what is it that I do, and what is it that we do at a horse show? And I also get the question, in fact, I just got it the other day. I was working a horse and rode up beside a lady who said she used to show when she was young, and now she rides barrel racing horses, and she would love to just get back into showing, but she doesn't know where to go. And she said, is there anywhere to go where it's not crazy expensive, or where I can do my own thing? I'm a fairly competent horse person, but I'd love some lessons and some guidance and a group to show with. So of course I handed her my business card. Kidding. But absolutely, that's so crazy that it's not more obvious to people where to go. And I think the reason is because I think sometimes even people within the industry don't know where to send people who just want to get started in the show thing, especially in the Arabian world. I think the Morgan, the Saddlebred, it's fairly similar, except lots of those places have, there are barns in the area that do the, the amateur new to showing thing. Anyways, often people will say that, how do I get started without it being so expensive? I hear it's crazy expensive. And although they're asking about the money, I don't think it's always the money. And I say this because I've seen it with my own clients, whether it's adult riders or kids being paid for by their parents or whatever. I don't think it's always a case of money, because I sometimes see people who say, oh, I can't afford it, but then I see the other things they spend their money on. So they have the money, they just are deciding that the value's not there for the money that they would potentially be spending. And so I think that's the most important thing when you're looking for somewhere to go, is to have the right questions, to know what to ask and to know what you want. So first of all, there's a few things that you need to think about as far as what kind of services and what kind of service provider are you looking for. So are you looking to just take lessons? Are you looking to take 1 lesson a week or 4 lessons a week? Or, you need to know the answer to those questions pretty early on in your search. Because that's going to change. Or do you want to buy a horse, and do you want to see that horse do really well? But it doesn't necessarily have to be with you. There are a lot of people that do that buy horses, and those horses spend a couple of years with the trainer showing it, with the trainer, bringing it to the highest level of success that the trainer can. And sometimes that's a higher level of success than the trainer can bring the horse if it was also being ridden by the amateur owner. Because again, they're training it to a level of technicality that might be out of the reach of the rider. That's a really, really important concept for amateur owners to understand, is that when we're training a horse for us to ride and show, or we're training a horse that has to be ridden and shown by someone else, especially someone without as much experience, those are 2 really different paths. So you need to know, do I want a horse that's going to be really successful and I want to see it do really well, or do I want to show a horse and learn how to train and ride and show a horse? And how am I going to go about doing that? I have said before, and you can read, I'll link to the blog, about why would I want a horse trainer. Some people have that attitude that if you send your horse to a horse trainer, you're selling out. And how could I had, have heard the comment, how can it be satisfying if you win and you have a horse trainer and they're doing everything for you? And I don't think that's the main idea with all horse trainers. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of trainers who will take your horse and, you'll sit on it here and there. But I think most trainers are invested in creating good riders. And those horses are very different, and they need a lot of help. And the same way that you have a coach, your horse needs a coach, someone who knows what they're doing, not just you bringing your horse along kind of learning and then applying it, unless you're a very experienced amateur. So you need to know, I guess you need to know what types of trainers and what their goals are. So some trainers are really amazing horse trainers, like unbelievably amazing horse people, horsemen, horsewomen, and sometimes they aren't always, their strengths are not in human training. So they are not in the business of creating really advanced riders. They will get you on your horse and they will teach you how to ride your horse, but it isn't necessarily an exercise in rider biomechanics or balance or versatility or multiple skills. It's an exercise in learning to ride your horse, which if you're already a fairly advanced rider is totally great, but if you're not, can sometimes be a little bit problematic, and people can get frustrated, especially if they're trying to ride other horses as well. Some coaches have their own career goals about the aspirations and achievements that they want to garner as they go through. So you need to know that too. If you have a horse that you just want in training and you want shown successfully, then that will maybe mesh really compatibly with a trainer who also has career achievement goals that they want to further and want to move towards. But if you're a rider who really wants to, spotlight on your riding and you really want to become a more advanced rider or trainer yourself, you are going to need someone who's more of a coach, someone who's more strength line, more in instruction, and obviously you're going to need someone who's a good horse person, but you're going to need to pick out someone who will spend a lot more time or as much time with you as they do with their horse, with the horse. Horse people aren't necessarily people. So obviously people come with horses, but there are directions you can go that are less people work and more horse work. So you need to be, as a client, you need to be really aware of that. Ask for things like, how does a typical show season work? What kind of things do I pay for? When do I pay for them? Why is it going to benefit me? Is it optional? Does my horse need to be in training? When does it need to start being in training? What does that involve? Does it have to come in the barn to be in training? What does that cost? Again, all of these are great things, and I will tell you that most trainers have a pretty good reason for the things they do. They don't need to be wasting their time or energy on things that aren't helpful. So they're going to have a pretty good reason for why they do what they do. And you may have a plan that encompasses more than one service provider. So you may think, I'm going to go ride with this person for a year or two, really enhance, my riding ability, and then I'm going to move on and I'm going to, buy a new horse, or I'm going to, whatever, that sort of thing. That actually brings me to the next topic or question is, do I have to have my own horse? Are there lease horses available? Are there horses I can borrow for lessons available? Those are all things that we offer, but not all places offer them. Some trainers are willing to go and find you a lease horse or help you to find a lease horse or a horse to purchase if you would like to, but that might not be the best, to find out after the fact. You want to know that going in, that's your plan. Oh, okay, I'll be right there, okay? Just hold on. Sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't get the full Monty there from the naked toddler running in. So, yeah, do I need a horse? Can I lease a horse? Can you find me a lease horse? Because not all of us need to commit, especially if you're at a point where you're just starting showing. You might not want to commit to buying a horse. What if you start with a hunter horse and you want a country horse? If you don't even know what those words mean, you really shouldn't be buying a horse. So maybe you need to lease, and maybe you decide halfway in that you want a Western horse. Well, it's probably a good thing. Horses can be bought and sold, and they absolutely can, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a lot harder to sell a horse than it is to get out of a lease. So unless you have an investment goal with that horse, you might want to pursue the option of leasing, and it's actually probably more prevalent than you realize, especially if you're working with a good, reputable trainer, somebody who people don't mind sending their horse to that person. You're probably still going to have to pay for it to be in training, even though you're only leasing it. It would be like renting a house and still having to pay if you want to, change the paint color or that kind of thing. If you want to show that horse, the trainer's going to expect probably that it's in training, at least for some degree, so that they have some control over how this horse's progression goes and are able to help you, because they can better help you if they know that horse and they've been working with that horse. Yeah, you're going to want to know that, and you're going to want to have that discussion up front, because there are some trainers that are going to say, no, we're going to go and we're going to find you a horse and we want you to buy. And there are going to be some trainers who say, you know what, you're just starting out. We don't want you to buy. We want you to go and look around and figure out what's out there. So those are some of the main questions you're going to want to ask. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a really good handle on the answers to those questions. I'm going to attach a link to a document, and it just gives you an example of what we do. So the kinds of questions, it's a bit of a flow chart, and you can see, if I don't own a horse and I just want to take lessons, what does that cost? If I don't want to, if I want to lease a horse, but I just want to ride and I just want to take lessons, what does that cost? If I want to buy a horse, or if I have my own horse and I want to bring it for training. Also, you want to talk about how does your barn, your provider, do things? Do they force you to pay for things? What do you need to pay for up front? I know that there's all sorts of different things. Does the horse have to have big shoes on all year? Can it be living outside part of the year? And again, this is going to make more sense to people who are more involved already and who have done some of this. But is it going to need to get body clipped? Is that something that they do universally, or is there some wiggle room? I know that some of our horses, if we're just going to local level shows, that we can get away with it and they look good, because I still want my riders to represent and look well, or look good for the team, look good on the team. So it's always a case by case basis, and I tell my riders that, so do they have to be in a stall? Do they get turnout? Do they, all those kinds of things that, you need to know whether or not those things matter to you, and then you need to know whether they are deal breakers or not for you. What else was I going to say? Do they offer packages? Like, can you pay for things, like when you go to a horse show, do you pay for the whole horse show? Is it all inclusive, or do you pay for a base rate and then per class? Some people do it like that, where you pay a base rate and then per class adds on a certain amount. We've been talking about offering a package. You'll see that in the breakdown, something that people have kind of been interested in, a package where it's just kind of the full meal deal. So it includes the cost of shoes, it includes the cost of all of those things, right?
Zoo starts with a...
Okay, I'll come see your zoo after, okay? Can you give me 2 more minutes?
My zoo starts with numbers and letters.
Okay, I'll be right there. So, just make sure that if you're looking for something like that, I have a package where that includes, your training costs, your lesson costs, and your shoes for the show season. So then your show fees would be on top of that. Even things like I bill my show fees at the front of the month or the beginning of the month. Before the horse show. I know there's some barns who will bill every client who shows at any show that year an amount for advertising and sponsoring, because their barn will sponsor. That will give their barn notoriety. It will give their barn certain benefits at the shows, access to, sponsors lounges and things like that, and better stabling sometimes you get. So you need to know if you're only showing at one show, you are still going to have a cut of that, and that's going to come in March or whenever. Again, those are just things you want to ask about, because they're good things and they're important things, but you don't want to get hit with a $300 bill in March that you didn't know was coming. So you just want to ask, how does that work? How do you handle sponsorships? How do you handle shoes? Shows, body clip, prep, fees, when do they happen? Those are just all really important questions to ask. The biggest thing that you want to have thought about and that you want to have a very long discussion about with anyone that you are considering starting with, whether you're just starting out or you've been showing for years and are just making a shift, is why are you doing this? Why are you showing? Do you need a ribbon? like if you come home from a show with not one ribbon, which will happen to everyone regardless, are you going to feel like it was a fail? Even if you've accomplished the things that you want to accomplish, if you are like, I want to go to nationals and I want to win some roses. Your trainer might have words about that. You might need, there might be some things that need to change or happen. You might need a new horse. You might need, and maybe you're prepared to do that. And that's great. A trainer would be very excited about someone that said, take me horse shopping. I want to buy a national contending horse. Doesn't mean you're going to win it. Doesn't mean the horse isn't going to go lame halfway through the year. It doesn't mean any of those things. No one's going to make those guarantees. But it does mean that you've talked about it and that the trainer's aware. Some people don't know what they want, or they don't, or they think they know what they want until they get to the horse show. And sometimes that's a little bit of, live and learn. But that's why I always encourage people, go to the horse show with the team that you're considering, or be around them at the horse show before you kind of make the shift, because that way you have a really good idea. If you're like, I just want to have fun, I want someone who supports me, then that's really important. And there are people out there who, will do that. You might say, my horse is mediocre, but I don't care. I just love him and I want to do the best I can do with him. There's lots of places that will honor that and that will help you do the best you can do. And they're not going to be offended if you don't have the highest quality horse out there. And they are going to require that you upgrade your horse. But you need to know that, because the operations that just one second. Sorry, I thought I could do this before nap time was over, but it was over early, I guess. So you just want to make sure that your reason why you're doing this is really compatible with the group that you're with, or you're going to feel frustrated. If you're going to feel like, I need to get to all these shows, I want to go, I want to go to Scottsdale, I want to go to nationals, I want to go to US nationals, and you're with a trainer who's like, I'm not going to US nationals, I'm not hauling horses down there. It's not going to work out. You're going to be unhappy. You don't make a compromise on why you're doing this, because that is the most important thing. And then be ready for some honesty. If you say, I want to go to nationals, and your trainer says you're not ready, then you need to respect that. And maybe you get a second opinion, and maybe you ask around, but at the end of the day, they're not doing you any service if they say, yeah, totally. I know I've had riders before who say, I want to go to nationals. And I always say, that's awesome. We're going to be a little fish in a big pond. We're going to do our best. And you know what? There are going to be some classes that are going to be more accessible to us than others, especially given, the age of your horse, the quality of your horse, the experience of both of you. There is nothing wrong with saying, I want to go to nationals, just to say I went to nationals and to be there and to be riding in that big coliseum with everyone else. There's nothing wrong with that. I totally get it. We pay for experiences for their intrinsic value. Let's just be serious. We don't win a lot of money in this sport unless, you're really into the futurity and that kind of thing. So a lot of us are doing it for intrinsic value, right? The ribbon means nothing, monetarily, but it means a ton. It means a ton. So, intrinsically. So there can be a ride at nationals that means a ton that didn't win you a ribbon, but it still meant a lot that you were there. So that's totally okay, but you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to be honest with whoever it is that you are working with, your coach, your trainer, whoever, that's what you're looking for. So I guess my big takeaways here are going to be, know the questions to ask, know why you're doing this, and just be really ready to have some honest, candid conversations about what's possible, what's feasible, and where the best fit's going to be. Your trainer will appreciate that too. They will appreciate knowing straight up ahead of time where you're at, even if it seems crazy or it seems far-fetched or your goals seem really big. They'd rather know than you walk away unhappy later and wish they had known earlier that was really what you wanted. So I hope this has been helpful. See the links and attachments, because there's some good stuff in there. A couple articles, some resources, just some links to the stuff that we do. And stay tuned, because there's going to be more to come. Bye-bye.